morning, everybody, and a really, really warm welcome this morning. We're absolutely delighted to have you available to join us this morning for the first of a series of webinars taking place as part of our Winter Virtual Food Festival. This session this morning, Fair Kitchens, How to Build a Healthy and Inclusive Kitchen Culture, is brought to you today from Fair Kitchens, Hospitality, Action and Breaks. We hope you really enjoy the session. 96% of operators say they see a direct correlation between staff happiness and well-being and business performance. So how do we lead our teams effectively during what can be one of the busiest times of the year? As we head into this festive season, how do we best look after our teams to get the best out of them? From setting the culture to onboarding temporary staff, to safeguarding their mental health and well-being. Today, I'm delighted to say that we'll be sharing some fantastic practical tips, advice and resources with you to help you and tell you a bit more about the Fair Kitchens movement and their latest resource, Leading a Fair Kitchen. In a moment, I'll hand over to our host, Kathy Amos, to introduce today's fantastic speakers. But just before I do, I wanted to let you know this session was pre-recorded, but all of our speakers will be staying on at the end to answer any questions you might have in a live Q&A. So do feel free to ask your questions during the session using the function on your Zoom menu at the bottom, and we'll endeavour to answer them all at the end. Plus, we've got some really fantastic resources to tell you about that you can download and take away here and now. So we'll be covering those at the end, and also details of the other great webinars that we've got as part of the event. So do enjoy today's session, and like I say, submit your questions at any time. Thank you.
So if I could start off, I'll introduce our speakers for us. So we're really pleased to have Alex Hall. He's the Executive Lead and Culinary Team Leader for Unilever. Mark Reynolds, who's Executive Head Chef at Tottenham Hotspur and the National Vice Chair for the Craft Guild of Chefs. Zoe Gill, she's Development Chef and leads on education at Breaks. And we have Camilla Woods, who's the Service Director at Hospitality Action. So we're all here really this afternoon to discuss the purpose and why Fair Kitchens exists. So we believe a food service business thrives only when people who work there do thrive. Yeah, it's September 2020 mental health survey by Hospitality Action said that people who work in this industry are not thriving and in particular are looking to leave. We now know in the lead up to Christmas this has happened and is not slowing down and showing no signs of changing. So really, what does need to be done? How do we create working environments that people want to be part of so that we can keep the talent we have today and attract the talent needed for the future? This is what Fair Kitchens is all about. It strives to make the industry a fairer, more inclusive and happier place to be, and inspires this change by sharing stories, training and tools for those around the world who live the Fair Kitchen values with their teams with success. At Breaks, as we said in our August 24 press release, we believe in acting today to protect tomorrow. Cisco aims to support every community it engages with, and kitchen staff are a vital part of our business journey. Joining forces with Fair Kitchens has been an obvious decision. Sharing Fair Kitchens resources and insights with both our teams and our customers is part of our commitment to having a positive impact in our communities and on our society. As a business, we're committed to integrity and mutual respect, as well as having diverse, inclusive, authentic and honest voices as part of that conversation. Together with Fair Kitchens, we hope to change the narrative of what it means to work in hospitality and write new stories for people across the world. Now let's hear a bit more about the movement from Chef Alex Hall, who's been our ambassador for the movement since it came to the UK. So Alex, please can you tell us how you're involved with Fair Kitchens and what differences it's made and what you've been doing since it came to the UK?
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, Fair Kitchens was co-founded by Unilever Food Solutions and was first introduced in the United States. And it was really came off the back of a lot of research that we were doing around what's it like, what's the kitchen culture like, what issues are there, and what are the problems, and what can we do as a business to help support them. Now, obviously, we aren't operating a restaurant. We can't change when people eat. We're never going to be able to influence that. However, there are some amazing people out there that do things differently. And we thought it'd be a great opportunity to help share those stories and give the industry a bit of hope about what could be done differently and how we can treat people in a more inclusive way. So Fair Kitchens really stemmed from that research. Over here, we bought it in the peak of the pandemic when businesses were closed, and that I think Mark Lewis put it best. He spoke about the brotherhood, sort of everyone being broken up. That family environment, that culture that we all live with, was broken up, and all of a sudden those people that you used to spend 10, 12, 14 hours a day with were no longer by your side. So we were really conscious that the industry had changed, had a fundamental shift massively overnight, and a lot of our support network was changed immediately. So we thought it was the ideal time to bring it together to really highlight what could be done, even during those darker days of the pandemic. So we focused on, staying in contact with teams, building up that network again, refreshing yourself, making sure that, as chefs, as such active people, that you've got that routine and you can manage your own mental well-being during that time. And then as it sort of, the lights started to open up and we could see, hopefully, coming towards that sort of reopening of the industry, there was a lot of anxiety about returning to work. So we just wanted to address it. And fundamentally, we've moved on now to a point where we really wanted to focus on what's next. And really, it's all about leaders and the new leaders for this industry, because we'd never had a chance to stop, pause and reflect like we have done. So we felt it was an ideal time to focus on the leaders of this industry. So we launched a leadership training funded by Unilever to help educate leaders across the globe on how to create a fair kitchens, things to look out for, mental well-being, checklists. I know that Camilla's going to do an amazing job talking about that. And actually just pulling great insights from different kitchens. So it's all been a big journey that we're all on together, but ultimately Fair Kitchens is now looking at leaders and thinking about what the future is of the industry.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much. Thanks for that, Alex. Mark, over to you now. I'm going to ask a few questions for you, Mark, who's obviously really, really working full on in the marketplace. So, Mark, what do you think good leadership and a good culture really means to you? And actually, how do you manage your team effectively and can keep that working?
Yeah, I mean, for me, good leadership, you have to be inspirational and aspirational as well for the guys to aspire to be in your position. For me, that's about good leadership and respect. For me, a good culture, it breeds commitment. It breeds a better work ethic from the staff. If you're asking them to go above and beyond what they normally would do for you, the answer would normally be yes, if you have a good culture within the kitchen. I've tried many different things here at the stadium to change people's perception of the chef. I very much operate an open door policy, not only for my department as chefs, but anyone that works in the stadium. If they're having issues, I have very much an open door policy. I'm lucky enough to have my own office. I have a sofa in my office that anyone within our business really can come and talk and. Yeah, I think that's created a better culture for chefs and breaking down the barriers of front of house staff and chefs know that they can actually come speak to the chef.
Yeah, I think that openness is fantastic.
Yeah.
Does that culture? Do you think that culture helps make your staff stay?
Yeah, definitely. I say for my staff, my head chef now has been me 15 years. One of my other head chefs been me 8 years. My pastry chef's been me 8 years. I've got 2 chef de parties that have been 4 years, and my back of house manager actually been me 10 years. So I must be doing something right.
I think I was going to ask you how to ensure they don't leave so quickly, but I don't think I need to now because I think that certainly sounds like it's working. Yeah. And sort of obviously with Christmas coming up, and I mean I know you're busy and have peaks and troughs all the time in a football stadium, but how do you sort of manage that and actually maybe manage the agency staff if they're not part of your normal staff? How do you manage that extra team that's not part of your normal core team?
I think it's giving them clear communication. You have to let them think for themselves. You don't want to come across as micromanaging people. And I think the biggest thing with the casual workforce, you have to give them plenty of notice on work. I mean, we've booked now guys up until January. Yeah, it's a way of checking in with them and not seeming to be over managing them. You have to sort of, although a casual member of the team, we have our standards that we need to set, but they also need to follow that through. And also, like for example, we're having a Christmas drink out end of November. We go into December, it's very busy, and we include guys that are with us here all the time. They might only be casuals, but we include them as part of the team as well, so they get an invite as well. And today, one of my head chefs has started a secret Santa for the casual workforce, so they can all put in the secret Santa. So yeah, it's making them feel inclusive, really.
I think that word inclusive is really important, particularly when you've got, two teams of people working together. Have you always worked like that?
Yeah, definitely. And to be fair, my full-time team and the casual team, they all get the uniform from the same place. They're all in the same uniform. There's they all look the same, so they all feel the same. So I think it's important.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you now, Zoe. So Zoe, what would you say creates an inclusive culture in the kitchen from your experience in the kitchen?
I think first and foremost, it has to be that old-fashioned value of lead by example, and that can be demonstrated in so many different ways, and particularly behaviour and respect to one another within the environment. And that will naturally rub off on the rest of your team. So if you've got that open door policy, as we've already spoken about, then that starts a different type of dynamic within the kitchen. Being welcoming, allowing people to feel safe in that comfortable environment is really important. Taking time to understand and to connect with people. People come from all different backgrounds and walks within life, so it's important to share and understand people and to build upon those relationships. Bringing together a chef team, and again, it doesn't matter of which capabilities, which skill set you have, which previous background you come from. It's about bringing everybody together and to have the same ambitions and goals. And equally,
no, I was going to say, sort of adding to that, have you had any particular experiences or learnings yourself that's made you, act and feel in that way?
I think probably time has certainly moved on to how kitchens have transformed from even my college days. And reflecting and looking back, my college days were very much built up of a mixture of lecturers, female and male, different backgrounds, different knowledge within the industry. So I think it's important how we bring that together. I also remember very vividly from my younger pub days about the inclusiveness and how teams come together as chefs. We had our head chef in our pub called Jerry, and there was two of us that were training at college, and he type of took us under his wing. And it wasn't a case of that he was not open to new suggestions and new ways of working, particularly as he was coming of that retirement age. And again, it's just sharing best practice and really pulling together as a team.
What advice would you have to sort of leaders trying to entice and invite more women chefs in particular into the industry?
There's various thoughts around the answer to your question, Kathy. Particularly, I think recently we've heard of some terrible stories within the news and the media about women feeling safe on the streets. And women need to feel safe and comfortable in any working environment. So I think that it's bringing that element that women feel safe, that they feel safe in terms of speaking out, showing their skill set, demonstrating that they can do their job as well as anybody else, and particularly where we find that this industry is very male dominant.
I think that's a really fair point, actually. And actually, now coming back to Mark and coming back to Christmas and sort of teams, we're really conscious at Christmas. It's a time when lots of people are away from their families, which is often a challenging time for people. How do you touched it, but how do you sort of create a feeling of community at work and that community between the front and back of house at that period of time in particular?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all going to be busy. But to be fair, in my world, we've been busy for the last 6-7 weeks already. I think we have to remember the families that are supporting the guys that we're working with. So what we did as an incentive, and we're carrying it on, we're in a European Cup at the moment that's fairly quiet. We shut level 5. So we've actually been giving staff that work 3 games on the bounce 4 tickets for their family to come and enjoy a game at the match. We give them something to eat and drink when they come. It's a chance for sometimes just for the family to recognise where that member of the family is coming every day and to see what they do and hopefully be a bit more understanding. So yeah, no, we found that that's really helped with building a bit of rapport between everyone who works.
Yeah, that sounds really nice, giving something back, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, coming back to you, Zoe. Now, how do you think we can keep engagement and good energy alive through Christmas? Actually, any business period in particular, it gets repetitive as well. What have you got any tips for that sort of thing from your experience?
I think it's having that discussion, sharing and understanding that it's going to be a busy time. So be fair to each other. Everybody has different commitments outside of work. So work together as to how the shifts can be equally shared out. Taking time as a team. I certainly remember from my pre-break days, at busy times, if we could share a bite of breakfast together, or certainly at the end of the evening and a busy shift, it would be a case of sharing a drink. I think something else that's really important is Christmas can be quite an emotional time for people. They might be missing families, loved ones, or they might have experienced a bereavement, and this could be their first Christmas without a loved one. So I think, again, it's taking time to have those conversations, open door policy, and understand and learn about the team that you're leading.
I think that open door policy is really important. Mark's obviously touched on that earlier as well. I think that openness is really important. And Alex, leading up to Christmas, what do you think will cause the sort of most stress really for teams, and what can leaders do to try and alleviate it, to sort of create a safeguarding for staff?
Well, look, I mean, it's always a stressful time, and as a leader, you've got to take that on your shoulders. So being really organised and being structured in what you're doing helps everyone know exactly where they stand, really. So I'd always say, as a leader, take that time to think about yourself as well, because you can't manage others if you're not managing yourself properly. So think about how can you divide the workload up, even for you, because there's this sort of feeling that, I've got to look after my team, but you just can't do it if you're not looking after yourself. So I would say take some time out for yourself and make sure your team know what they can do. Make sure that you've given a clear brief. All of these things help create that environment where you're able to trust in people. And I think that's when actually you get that sweet spot, isn't it? You've got that trust, you've got that belief, and everyone knows that they can follow you, and you're there for them and they're there for you. So I think it's all about sharing that load and really creating an environment where everyone knows that you're all there to support each other, because ultimately you've got the same goal. You want to serve a great plate of food. You want to let your customers leave your restaurant, leave your venue with the most fantastic experience. So it's really about sharing that goal, sharing that ambition, and making sure that everyone's clear on what they need to do, in my eyes.